When I started flying a Microsoft Flight Simulator, I was using the Thrustmaster TCA side stick. That is until I came upon the Moza AB6, and it completely changed my way of flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator. AB6 is a budget-friendly, younger brother version of the AB9, offering an amazing amount of force feedback. Once you pair that force feedback with different grips, it really makes it a completely immersive experience when you're flying in a flight simulator. Whether you want to fly combat aircraft all the way to airliners, Moza has got you with a different variety of grips, such as the MHG flight stick, which comes with the base, and the MA3X airliner grip, which is $80-ish US, and it really does look realistic. Both of the products are extremely easy to switch out, seeing that you just have to unscrew and screw back in that little circular disc on each of the grips and begin flying. As you can see, the AB6 base itself is equipped with 2 sliders that can be used for the throttle and rudder, and 8 push buttons. The push buttons themselves feel very nice, and they have a nice amount of friction and tension to them, which gives them more of a rubbery feeling. I prefer that, and it makes the grip feel more high quality. Additionally, where the base connects to the grip, there is a very nice leather attachment that gives it some extra tension and realistic feeling, and of course hides all the mechanical components. Let's move on now to the MHG grip. This is the one that comes with the base. This MHG grip does come with a lot of buttons, POVs, hat switches, and things like that, including the launch button, the red trigger for any guns on the aircraft, a POV joystick, some other assorted buttons, and hat switches. Of course, these are very useful for combat flying, seeing you need all of these buttons to perform well in any combat game. Let's begin a flight now with the MA3X grip in a Cirrus Vision Jet. The MA3X grip does not offer a lot of buttons, but it does have some buttons that are useful for general aviation flying, such as a small trim slider. This is used in almost every general aviation aircraft because pilots are always needing to adjust their trim, seeing that trim is not automatically adjusted in general aviation aircraft, so they have to do it themselves. Later on in this flight, I will also show a demonstration of what it looks like to use the trim on this grip and in this aircraft. Besides that, if you are flying on VATSIM, the MA3X does offer a push-to-talk button in the very front of the joystick, like any other Airbus joystick I have flown with before. This is a key feature for, again, pilots flying on things like VATSIM, because you need a button to press when you're communicating. And on top of that, all Airbus joysticks do come with the big red autopilot disconnect button. This is really what makes an Airbus joystick what it is, and is a key identifier for that specific joystick. And of course, the MA3X did include that also. I did not mention this on takeoff, but when you are on the takeoff roll, the AB6 begins to vibrate. Not violently, but you can feel a vibration from the ground movements. And of course, if you have headphones on, it is an extremely immersive experience and kind of makes you feel like you're actually flying that aircraft. And of course, once you do get airborne, you can also again feel small vibrations. This happens when you're raising the landing gear and when there's any slight changes in turbulence and wind direction. This also happens when you pitch up too aggressively. It becomes tense and more difficult to move and starts shaking a bit more when you're on the verge of a stall. This also happens during turns when the lift of the aircraft kind of shifts. It can vibrate every once in a while once the aircraft makes a small movement. I did also notice that if your aircraft is going too fast and you try to pitch up, due to those forces pushing you down, it is extremely difficult and takes a lot of manual force to pull the joystick back. The AB6 almost essentially locks up those mechanics and doesn't even let you pull it back at all, but with enough force, it does let you. Obviously, when using this grip, don't apply too much force because you may break it. Again, these aren't real joysticks, they aren't toys either, but that does not mean they're indestructible, so please do not pull on it as hard as you can. Just be careful with how much force you're using on the product. I myself normally don't use that much force at all. I just tested using a little more, but I didn't use all my strength to pull it back. Obviously, if you are using larger aircraft, the AB6 will become more tense depending on how big the aircraft is. With smaller general aviation aircraft, it is easier to move the joystick because obviously the aircraft is smaller and more affected of smaller joystick inputs. Speaking of larger aircraft, let's move on now to the A320 by fly-by-wire, also known as the A32NX. And as I said, it will be much harder to add the inputs I want on this aircraft because it is much larger. Already, as I spool up the engines and begin my takeoff roll, I am already feeling vibrations. I can also notice they are a bit larger than they were in the Cirrus, not by much, but a little bit larger, most likely because my software settings aren't set high enough. And once I spooled up the engines to flex, I noticed that the vibrations became greater because of how much thrust was being applied. Once I began my rotation, I felt a very heavy tenseness on the stick because of the forces trying to push the aircraft back down, so you had to counteract that by pulling up harder than the stick was trying to resist. And then obviously, once I put the landing gear up, I felt a big vibration for when the gears were actually moving upwards into the aircraft. Besides that, I did not feel many vibrations after that, except for retracting the flaps and a couple of bumps from turbulence along the way. But slightly different from the Cirrus, if you do get into a stall or a heavy pitch up, it begins to shake violently. The Cirrus wasn't very violent with shaking and didn't move my desk at all, but once this one began shaking, it actually made my monitor shake a little bit during the flight. Not to a concerning point, I wasn't worried about my monitor falling or anything like that, but it actually made it a lot more realistic and I could feel them very easily. Let's move on now to other sections of this video where I will go over how to operate the software, specifically the Moza cockpit software, the build quality for the 3 products listed here, and how all this ecosystem blends into one. Moving on to the amazing Moza cockpit software. Unlike other product softwares, this one is built for efficiency and quality. The GUI is a calming screen and very simple to look at, and provides very simple options and buttons for you to change. On the main screen, you will see your grip, your base, your throttle, and your rudder pedals. You can click on any of these 4 icons and you can change the settings for all of them. For the base, you can change things like the sensitivity, the dampening, the inertia, and other things like that, along with the force feedback pressure. You can also change some of the lighting features, the lighting intensity, and some of the buttons and what they do, such as the 2 throttle sliders. You can change them from throttles to rudders to anything of the sorts, whatever you'd like. You can even bind them in Microsoft Flight Simulator or whichever sim you are flying on. The same goes for the grip. Whichever grip you have, especially the MHG, you can change the brightness, all of the lighting settings, and all the keybinds and what all of the buttons do. All the software is so nicely put together and all the features are very well integrated onto how you use them in the product. As I stated before, everything is very well organized and well put together, which puts a very good look on Moza and, of course, their amazing software. Let's move on now to the build quality of the 3 products, the MA3X, the MHG flight stick, and, of course, the base. Starting off with the MA3X. The box of the MA3X is very nice and it comes in great packaging. It almost looks like styrofoam, but it's black and has a different consistency to it. Either way, it is nicely packaged and looks very nice in the packaging. I was very surprised to see how shiny the product was, seeing that it is only a hard plastic. Although it is a hard plastic, it is very lightweight, which adds that extra realism and makes the base feel even more like a real force feedback. And as I said before, the MA3X does have a good amount of buttons, with the push-to-talk button on the very front, the autopilot disconnect, a joystick, and a trim slider on the very side. Please keep in mind before purchasing the MA3X that it is a right-hand sided grip, so if you're looking for a captain side grip and you want the maximum realism possible, I would not suggest going with this. Although it does actually feel quite nice in the left-hand side, unlike some other products I've tried that are for right-handed grips, the MA3X feels nice in both hands. Now let's move on to the second grip, the MHG flight stick. Keep in mind the MHG is not tailored to any specific aircraft, it is just meant for a universal combat flying style grip, which offers a variety of buttons, switches, hat switches, joysticks, you name it. It has all of those for any need you have for combat flying. Some of the main buttons include the launch button, the red firing button, a POV joystick, and a couple of hat switches. And of course there are also some additional hat switches, joysticks, and buttons to fit any of your combat flying needs. The MHG is still plastic, but feels a bit heavier than the MA3X, most likely because how the MHG is actually quite bigger than the MA3X and features more of a comfortable grip. On the sides and the bottom, it actually does have some padding for your hands and fits really well in your right hand. Keep in mind, this is also for right-handed flying, but I do not know of any combat aircraft that are left-handed grips, so this one does not surprise me at all. Moving on to the main showpiece that houses all of these grips, the Moza AB6. Coming in at around $400 USD, this is the cheapest force feedback bass that you're ever going to find. And to be honest, the quality is actually insane. The bass has a metal housing and some mechanical components inside, and features a leather area connecting the bass to the grip. The bass itself is rather small compared to the big brother AB9, which is huge, and the AB6 fits nicely on your desk, or really anywhere that you're looking to use it. It has an extremely high quality metal desk clamp that extends down about a foot from your desk, and depending on your chair height, is about waist level to where you sit. The height of the joystick, depending on your desk and chair height, feels very realistic and would make sense in an actual aircraft. Altogether, these three products, the AB6, MA3X, and the MHD flight stick, all are amazing products by Moza, and most of them are actually pretty budget friendly. All of these products just fit well together into this one ecosystem of Moza products, and of course, if you were to get rudder pedals, it would be an even better experience. Having these three products gives you a very wide variety of aircraft you can fly. You can fly general aviation, you can fly airliners, combat flying, really anything you'd like. Even aircraft that require a yoke, AB6 still masters that force feedback even when it's not the correct joystick. To conclude the video, I would just like to thank Moza deeply for sending me these, two products. The MHG and the AB6 are the same thing and they come in a bundle, but the MA3X and the AB6, they are amazing products, and I just would deeply like to thank them for sending me both of these to review. I did give a completely unbiased, in my opinion, review on these products, and would just like to say they are amazing and pretty budget friendly for most people that are looking for cheap grips and a force feedback bass. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. It really does help out my channel. I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya!